So May 2020 was when it all crashed. Because we didn't know how the disease was being transmitted at that time, every order was suspended, just one after the other. And I was like, officially do not have a business.
No unicorns, no brands. Just hard-working people who built their business from the ground up, sharing their experience so others can learn. Presented by Larissa Feeney from Kinor, this is Real Business Conversations.
Hello, my name is Larissa Feeney. I am CEO and founder at Kinor Finance and Business Services. Today, we're meeting an entrepreneur whose drive and determination has created a globally successful business and won her many awards. Inspired by her grandfather's homemade spirits, she has captured the attention of some big investors such as Russell Crowe, Ed Sheeran and Jimmy Carr, and is investing back into her local community with the opening of the brand home in Muff, County Donegal just this year. It's a pleasure to welcome founder and CEO of the Muff Liquor Company, Laura Boner.
Thanks for having me. It's good to see you.
I'm delighted to have you here today, and you're so good to give us your time. I really do appreciate it. I know you are incredibly busy. You've had the most amazing year, and would you be willing to start by maybe telling us a little bit about 2024 and everything that you've achieved this year?
My goodness, 2024 seems to be, I've lived 2,000 months. It's like we're not even finished yet. I was living in Australia until April, and I was coming home because obviously the build of the brand home in Muff was taking place. So I was obviously coming home for that to finish, because it was very, very difficult to try and project manage a building when you are 11 hours difference in a different country. We had opened up our brand home in Muff. We had a big launch party. We got our deal from America. We got our first shipment on the water. I'm currently talking to you from Miami. I am now living here. I relocated to the States nearly 2 months ago. It feels like a year ago. So yeah, like when I say a lot's happened, a lot's happened.
Let's start at the very beginning then, because today you're in America. You're about to see your physical bottles on shelves for the first time, which is a fantastic achievement and a super moment to mark. Take me back to the beginning.
To the very beginning.
Yes.
Well, like this is a 20-year dream as such. You know, I first sent my first email at 19 to my family, calling it the Muff Liquor Company, and announcing that I was dropping out of law school to move home to learn how to make vodka from Grandad's Potatoes. I was going to own this alcohol company. I think I was like, I'm just going to start it and then I'm going to sell it. I think was kind of my attitude. My mum was terminally ill at the time. My brother was like, you are not doing this. Are you absolutely insane? We have got so much going on. What do you know about making alcohol or even setting up a business at this age? I stayed in law school, qualified, hated it. Moved to London. I worked in real estate, which is I have like a passion for it still. Like I absolutely loved it. I've never had a job that I didn't like, which is quite rare, I think. But I really enjoyed everything of it. But the passion and the idea of the Muff Liquor Company never left me. For those 12 years, I constantly talked about it. I would constantly come up with drawings and ideas, and I had the domain, and then my business partner Tom, so I was his account manager. They're like a huge property tycoon in the UK. I was their account manager for 8 years, and he kind of just said to me, look, we're sitting in Shanghai. I was 30 or 31 at this stage. I was a director of the UK. We had 300 staff, 17 offices, and I was miserable. I was like really, really, really miserable. And he was like, you have absolutely everything going for you. I was like, it's just not what I want. And he was like, please do not mention the Muff Liquor Company. Please don't mention it again. I was like, that's what I want to do. I was like, my body is physically telling me to make the jump. So he sent me an email the next day, and he said to me, look, whatever you're selling, I'm buying. Like, I completely trust you. So if you need money, which obviously that's what I needed, he was like, let's team up together. And he goes, let's become partners. He goes, but I need you to resign, pack up your stuff and move home and do it. And I did it in less than 5 weeks.
Wow. And that was a start.
That was the start of me crying.
Do you think you needed that?
Well,
did you need that push to make it happen?
And you know, I did. I think I was so afraid to do it on my own. But like, with all due respect to Tom, Tom is one of my closest friends. He's an amazing business partner, but he's very silent. You know, he has no run-in with the company. Which technically I probably could have done it on my own, but like, I'm really glad that we've done this together. And if he believed in me, I didn't even have a business plan when he gave me that money. Like, he literally just transferred it into my account and said, off you go. So I was
Wow.
like, all right, which is unheard of. And like, I'll be forever grateful for him. Like, I don't know, because I talked about it for 12 years, I probably would have talked about it for another, I'd probably still be talking about it. I'd probably still be in London doing property.
I think that's really important. You know, the fact that you had that supporter early on, even though if he's been silent for vast majority of the journey, he gave you that confidence, that belief in yourself.
Yeah.
By just putting money out there for you.
Yeah.
With nothing in return, no business plan, no ask, no strategy.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Well, 50% of the company, he wanted to have 50-50. Which like again, like we are still equal to this day. And look, I absolutely adore him. Like, we're in it for the long haul now. He's not getting rid of me.
So he's been silent, and although he provided the money, which is obviously so important, you provided the knowledge, the skills, the know-how. You didn't know anything about the alcohol industry. You had to learn it all from the beginning.
Yeah. I hadn't a clue. I mean, I remember having this money and then having this idea and going, so like, what do I do now? Like, even like registering the company, like, I had to like ring my solicitors and the accountants and the revenue and the paperwork. Like, it is so overwhelming. But like, I just asked, I asked for help nonstop, and I call people, and like, I always say, like, I'd rather lose face than lose money. So I'll ask a question, and I don't care if it looks like, if you think you might come across stupid, I don't care. I'll get my answer, and then I move forward. So, I didn't know anything about it. Like, and I mean zilch, other than drinking maybe a few on a Friday night. So I went down to a distillery. I learned the process of how to make it. And like, the thing is, like, I was only going to make vodka and nothing else. And then my friend who worked for, was she Jameson or Diageo? I can't even remember where she was, but she said to me, you know, Laura, there's going to be this massive trend of gin. And I was like, I hate gin. I was like, I can't sell something that I don't believe in. And she was like, I'm telling you, like, you kind of need to get ahead of this. So went down to the distillery and messed around, and I figured out what it is that I don't actually like about gin, and it's actually juniper berries. I don't like the sharpness.
Okay. Yeah.
So my gin is not juniper led, so it tastes completely different to most gins, and that is how the Muff gin, which thankfully it did happen because it kept me going. It was my best seller until the Americans took over. Yeah, so like, that's how that's all began.
In those early days, then you sought advice from experts, from anybody who would give you advice. How did you know what was good advice and what wasn't, Laura? Like, how did you know what advice to follow?
To be honest, it's a complete gut feeling. I am so aware of myself that I could be listening to somebody and I could be like, nah, this isn't for me. The thing too is, like, everybody has advice and everybody has ideas, and like, people contact me all the time like, oh, have you ever thought about doing this? I'm like, oh, God, I always thought, I only wish I thought about that. Of course I have, but it's quite difficult to do, like, to put things into motion. So I think I wrote everything down, and then you just pick the things that like are drawn to you and that make more sense to you. Like, for me, I think it's really important to make sure you know what your principles are, your morals are, what you stand for, what your brand stands for, what you want to be known for, and all those kind of things. And when you actually like put it all together, you just know the feeling that you're on the right path. You got to trust yourself.
Yeah, and I completely agree with you. I think if somebody, I think listening to people is really important, especially people who have done it, who have built a business or done whatever it is that you want to do, right? If you can learn from them, but you do have to trust your gut, because your gut will rarely steer you wrong.
Yeah. Well, like, I think even with any business, like, people might sell phones, I sell alcohol, people sell, like, there's still the same process and the same struggles and the P&Ls and cash flows and all the above. So sometimes, like, when my brother said to me, like, what are you doing? You're moving home to sell gin. And I was like, sure, I'm selling properties of houses that I didn't know how to sell properties. I didn't even know how they were built. So I was like, I could tell you absolutely everything about a new build property now. Except I don't own it. So I was like, so what's the difference about me learning my own craft? Yeah, so that was his kind of thing. And I come from a house of entrepreneurs, thankfully. My dad was a really successful one. My mum was a savvy businesswoman. She was a nurse, but like a savvy businesswoman. My brothers are just extremely entrepreneurial, successful, and so is my sister. And then my nephews, who are near enough the same age to me, are the same. So I'm surrounded with good people. And again, I could pick up the phone at any time and say, I'm in trouble. I don't understand this. Do you think this is right? And most of the time, like, maybe one of my brothers said to me, now, are you ringing and asking me for advice because you are looking for somebody to reassure you, or are you asking because you really doubt yourself? And sometimes I'm like, oh, I just want you to tell me I've done right. And he's like, don't tell me, just do it. He was like, you know the answer.
Yeah, great advice. Yeah. Just do it. Did you always know that you were going to build a global company? Was that always your vision?
Yeah. I think it was one of the first things I ever wrote down, that I was going to be one of the biggest and best alcohol brands to ever come out of Ireland. Now, I'm not there yet, but
you're well on your way.
I'm on a mission.
Yes, absolutely. And from a practical perspective then, okay, so you have this vision. Alcohol production is one of the most capital intensive industries in the world, isn't it? Like, you need a lot of money to get you there. How did you figure out how to raise the money to make it happen?
Well, Tom and I bootstrapped it ourselves. Like, we put in just over $250,000, just the two of us, for the first while, and then we realised $250,000 is not going to actually get us too far in the alcohol industry. A lot of the thing is, like, we have to pay everything up front. At least for 2 years. The banks won't lend you any money for 2 years. They need to see accounts. I think we had gone and spoken to a few grants that just, again, we were so young, but like, we hit the ground running, and we were like, but we need the money now. Like, we can't wait for 2 years. Our first fund round that we did was the Crowdcube, which was a really intense experience. I was probably too emotionally immature and too raw in the business to have done it. I found it extremely stressful. Plus the fact I've got nearly 500 of them, and they gave me their money. And then when COVID hit, obviously, I was like, I'm going to lose everybody's money. I know half these people from my community. Half of them are my family. Like, it was horrendous. Where if it had just been myself and Tom's money that we were losing, we would have been okay.
Well, that was really brave. I remember that. So that was a crowdfunding that you did.
Yeah.
Crowdfunding campaign that you did.
Yeah.
What year was that, Laura?
On our first year, which again, like, apparently no companies do that, but
okay.
So we launched on February 3rd, and it was a year and a half later. So we started it probably the following June, and the campaign was closed December 2019. And like, we had the most amazing business plan. We had these huge plans for 2020. I'm sure the whole world came down, crashed around us 10 weeks later. So, God, it was terrible.
And that stress of having the expectations of what you say, 500 people, how did you cope with that?
I didn't. I cried every single day with stress. It's not even out there. Like, I had my own house up as collateral. Like, my family had given me money. Like, my nephew had given me his 21 his birthday savings. It was, and my cousins and my best friends. There were so many people, and then there was loads of people from Donegal that had it. I was afraid to walk down the street with fear of them asking me a question, because I didn't know what I was going to do, because no one knew. So my whole thing was, every Monday morning the board would ring me and say, right, Laura, so what are we doing? And I was like, I don't know. It's does anybody have any suggestions? And they came back and was like, listen, this is your company. You're the CEO. You come up with the solutions. This is all on you. And that was the first reality check for me of going, right, this is down to me to fix
at the end of the day, no matter, and this is actually a really tough lesson for any business owner, at the end of the day, you can put the support around you with a board and a leadership team and investors and advisors, but it all comes down to you.
Yeah. Or like even during COVID, a lot of my advisors and my mentors that were very heavily involved, like they just all disappeared. Like I didn't hear from them. Now I do have my inner boards of my circle. They were absolutely phenomenal. Like every time we get together, I'm like, I will never forget how good you were to me to just keep pushing me and keep going. But again, it was one of those things, like I was like, you've wanted this for so long. Are you afraid giving this up now at this hurdle? So yeah, I remember like going down and doing like a sunrise meditation, and I was like, please universe, just give me a sign. And the next thing we came up was the cocktail boxes, and I say it anytime, I'll say it again for anybody who's listening who bought a cocktail boxes during that time. Like, thank you so much. Because I wouldn't be in Miami. I wouldn't have a company if we hadn't had that support.
Such a lesson in resilience, though, Laura, like to have come through it. When did you realise that you had got out the other side of that period?
So May 2020 was when it all crashed. See, because Ireland was so saturated with gin and vodkas when we launched. Like, I mean, like there was every county seemed to have a few. And it was really, really difficult for us to get the support that we needed. I didn't know it was because we were in Donegal and we couldn't get into the north. And then people, everyone was very, like people from each county are very loyal to their own county. So my attitude was like, right, let's leave Ireland and go overseas. So we spent nearly 18 months in Asia, just selling our souls, getting everyone running. We were like, right, we are ready to go. And next thing, because we didn't know how the disease was being transmitted at that time, every order was suspended, just one after the other. 72 hours, got my first email. By 72 hours, got my ninth, just saying everything had stopped. And I was like, officially do not have a business. I do not have a penny coming in. I don't know how I'm going to run anything. Survived it. And then January, it must have been 22. I always get 22 and 23 mixed up. I got an email from one of my big orders previously. Now, they ghosted me the entire time during COVID. Like, I stayed in contact with them, never going to reply. And then they sent me emails as if like we were chatting yesterday. Go, hey, Laura, hope's all well with you. And we're ready to continue with this order. At that point, I was like, okay, I don't have the cash flow or the dry goods to actually fulfill this container. Which said, I was like, it's chicken and the egg. And a few of my advisors had said to me, if you do this, the chances are you will go bankrupt because you'll be putting this money out. But by the time they actually pay you, there'll be too many months and gone past. And I hemmed and hemmed, and like I just couldn't let it go. And I rang John Teeling, who is one of the greatest men to walk this planet. And he said, Laura, sell a kidney. He goes, you make sure that shipment is on that water. So I was like, okay. So then I went to my brothers, and I hadn't gone to them at all because like I think everybody just expected me to go to them. But you're like yourself, you were like, do this on my own. Went to and my brothers, and of course they were like, look, we'll do anything for you, and we believe that you have this, so of course we'll help you out. So my brother actually gave me money, and he said to me, it's like throwing money on a fire. And that's all he said to me. Didn't say, make this work, or he wasn't angry. That's all he said to me. And I said, you can watch it burn, but I'm telling you, we're going to dance around it. So got my order out, and then maybe less than 6 or 8 weeks later, I bloody met Russell Crowe, and he changed my life, and I will be forever grateful for that man. I rang my brother and I was like, do you want this money back, or can I keep it?
But you have to tell us how you met Russell Crowe, because you make it sound like you just accidentally bumped into him on the street, and no, there was much more behind it to that.
Well, I actually wrote on my vision board a year before I even launched the business that I would have Ed Sheeran as a shareholder, that I would have Russell Crowe do the very first tweet when I went into Australia. obviously I had loads of things written on my whiteboard. And then 5 years later, I got both of them as my shareholders and got them to do my tweets. So I really wanted them. Ed, mainly, I just felt myself and Ed were very aligned from the very beginning. I was told like 10 years before I even launched the business that he had tried to buy the Muff liquor name because I think he was going to open a liquor store in Muff, like as a, like, you know, just because, just because you can.
Like, does he have any connection at all to Donegal or?
No, no. So I heard this rumor that I've now obviously spoken to him and I found out it was bloody true. So I heard that he wanted to buy it. Then we had the same life coach. We used the same brand agency. He had written his biggest historic song about his granddad. My story was about my granddad. His parents were Irish. I just was like, we are so aligned. We are so aligned. So I managed to get to pitch to his manager. And they came back and said, look, the door is not closed, but it's ajar. It's just not the right time for us. So to me, that was a rejection. So I like put a line through it. I was like, that is done. And then I was living in Barbados I left during COVID. I took the Nomad where you could go work remotely, a COVID-free place. So I went out to Barbados, which was only COVID-free for a couple of months and kind of got stuck there for a while. And then I managed to fly back to Ireland and my dad threw the newspaper down and said, Russell Crowe's in Dublin. And I thought, right. I was like, I need to get in front of this man. So from my best friend's sister's fiance, she sings in his band. So I managed to get in contact with her and I was like, look, I just need to know where he's going to be just so I can give him this box. And like anything, like I get people sending me stuff all the time for all the celebrities. And I always am like, I hate giving it to you, but I'm going to give it to you because like you just never bloody know. So he got the box at 10:30 on the Saturday night. It was a Muff gin, a vodka and whiskey. I sent him a wee note. And it was 8:00. The Sunday I got a message saying, do you have an investment deck that we can look at? Monday morning, 8:05, I got a phone call saying, are you looking for investment? Now at this stage, I was probably a week or two from fighting bankruptcy. I started using the B word around and telling the team and telling the family that, you know, like, I think this is like time's up for me. Plus the fact I was physically and mentally exhausted that I was like, I just didn't know if I had any more fight in me. Went down and met him for breakfast on the Wednesday and we had heads and terms agreed the following Friday.
Wow.
And then I've now found out from meeting the guys that Ed and Russell are such good friends that Ed told Russell about the Muff Liquor Company years ago. So when Russell got the box, he opened it up, sent a picture to Ed and was like, look what I've got. And Ed was like, I think he said, oh, she's an absolute hustler. You should meet her. And Russell replied back, okay. Russell better reply back, I've met her and she's absolutely mega. We're all in. And Ed just replied, okay. So I was like, hold on here. I was like, Russell was telling me this story. And I was like, oh, don't be taking away my graft of my hustling. I was like, I can't believe this. So like, where it was meant to be, clearly.
It was clearly meant to be. I mean, there's no other way to put it. But he was aware of the Muff Liquor Company for years.
Yeah, Ed told me that him and Niall Horan drank a bottle in Beverly Hills, some house, and I was like, and obviously I didn't know this. I was like, that's mental to think these two mega stars had a bottle of my gin during like COVID when I was crying all the time, and they were drinking my product and they were enjoying it. Like I remember just thinking, that's such a wow feeling. Like,
so you were in Asia, you were selling into Asia. And was it as a result of that investment and their networks that you decided to also sell into the States, or were the States were always probably in your mind as a destination? Yeah.
Well, Asia completely collapsed during COVID. I have never heard from another one of those beings. I don't even know if they're still alive. I don't know if their company's still there. I've never been ghosted in my life, but I've been ghosted by those guys. So then we kind of were like, right, we need to refocus. I tried to come into America in 2018. I came over here. Like, America is an absolute beast. And you don't come here to test your water. You either come in here fighting, be brave and bold, which us Irish are, or you just don't, because you'll be absolutely annihilated. So I was like, we're not ready. We're like, let's not. And then when the investors came on board, obviously I needed to expand my team. Like it was just myself for the first nearly year. And then Niall, who's my right-hand man, he's my head of ops. He joined me. I had Deborah, and then it was just us. And then it was just back to myself and Niall for years, where it's like, I think people thought we had this huge company, but it wasn't. But we were kind of like, okay, like we need to expand. And then Tony Carl, who's my global CCO, he came from Casabrands, Pinot Ricard, who's like, he's an absolute boss in the industry. So the Americans kind of they got in contact with like, Tony, what's going on with this girl? Like, what is this brand? Like, why are all these celebrities? Like, why are you leaving like your position to join this like skating startup? And Tony was like, I believe in this brand so much. So then they were like, send us over these bottles. Let's try it. And then I was living in Sydney, got a phone call saying, here, any chance you can fly to New York for a pitch, a meeting? And I was like, for what? I was like, are you actually, you're not seriously thinking we're going to go into America at this stage? So Tony's like, yeah, we are. So flew over, did my pitch. Again, couldn't have aligned with a better brand. Lewis Bulls are great businessmen. Like they are huge beasts, but they're not corporate. Like they were, like I was speaking, like their teams have been with them for 10, 15, 20 years. One of them said to them that, you know, she had, I don't know, her marriage had broke down and they gave her like a month off, like full pay or something like insane like that there. And really, really good people. So again, I can't do business with people that I don't feel are completely aligned with my principles and my morals and just like respect, I suppose. So I left New York, back to Sydney. Didn't think I'd hear from these people for a while. I was there maybe 10 days, got a phone call saying, hey, any chance you can fly back to Dublin and meet the big guys for dinner? And I was like, what? So back on a plane into Dublin, and they said to me, you know, Laura, we don't get on planes for anybody. And I was like, I would like you to know that I don't get on planes from Sydney for nobody either. So again, got on amazing with them. They were like, we are heavily invested in you and your brand. We did a deal and here we are.
Wow. And that was for 30,000 cases, 30,000 bottles, is that right?
No, cases.
Cases. Wow.
Yeah. 30,000 cases are here in the States. So I actually rang one of the stores there. They only got the stock on Friday and they were like, we're actually sold out. We've had to reorder. And I was like, what? And I was like, no, you can't. I was like, it's just arrived. And he was like, yeah, man, we've got new stock coming. So I was like, no, did they only order 3? Like, was it a very small order just to test it? So anyway, I need to go find out now today.
Amazing. And what has it been like? Because obviously, as you said, the US is a beast. How do you start in terms of marketing or advertising in a market like that?
Well, again, we've been aligned with probably the best brand agency for alcohol in the world, like in America. So we signed with Quaker City Mercantile, which is run by Steve Brass, who is like, he's notorious in the business. He actually created Henrik's from scratch. So we flew to Philadelphia, met with their team. They have a huge team and they are just amazing. Now, don't get me wrong, the American advertising and marketing is a little bit different to what I and the Irish would see the brand. So I have this saying now, we bend it but don't break it. So this is new to me. So even though like we've started the rollout, we're not making any noise about it. We're doing a very soft launch just to get them into like the big retail stores. And we're not launching now until the new year because we were meant to launch in June. We were going to have it all in for Christmas. Then the hurricane came, that delayed us nearly 10 weeks. The water, we couldn't get the shipment in. I was like, it is what it is. It's for a reason. So 2024 is not our time to big launch, but 2025 will. So we'll hit the ground running then in the new year.
So you've talked there about bending, not breaking it. So are you talking about the approach to the market is very different? The brand might be there might be a different perception of the brand in the US compared to Ireland, and you have to accept that and trust the experts and go with it.
Look, as I said, so we were having loads of meetings on computer. I ended up just saying, look, before we actually move forward with this contract, I actually need to physically be in a room and meet you guys, because I need you to meet me and my team and understand who we are and what we stand for. Because I was like, as much as America will have a lot of fun with this, do not disrespect myself, my brand, my heritage, the local community. And they got it straight away. They were like 100%. So like, I just have to trust the process. Like, I'm here. This is what I wanted. You can't keep it safe all the time. Brands evolve, like designs change, stories change. And like, there's only so much of my story that like, I just tell the same story all the time. Like nothing has changed in my story. Like obviously we're moving into America, but until maybe this time next year, like God knows what's going to happen. But I'm just putting all my faith into the divine good there.
But I think it's a really important process, and it's a really important part of the growth journey, that you're never going to be comfortable with every, and as you keep your brand really small, right, Laura? And as you keep it really tiny, and some businesses do, and that's fine. But your vision has always been to go global. And by doing that, and you may have to be uncomfortable sometimes, and that's okay.
It's just it's the fear. It's the fear of the unknown, and it's the fear of a bit of backlash. But again, you know, like I've had multiple meet interviews last week. Now we're under embargo until the new year. Out of the 20 that I had, 19 of them were amazing. But one guy hated it. Hated the liquid, hated the name, didn't like the celebrities. He just seemed insulted by everything that I said. And I was like, and I laughed, and like it shook me, or like, I'm not gonna lie. And I lay in bed at 4:15 that morning going over the whole thing, and I was like, that was a really humbling experience, and I needed to hear that, because my brand's not going to be for everyone. People will be offended. People aren't going to like the name. They're not going to like the liquid. And like, that's okay. Like, and they're
not your customer.
100%. So yeah, I was thanked. I have a thing that every night I go through a list of everyone I speak to, and I do a gratitude to thank them for their time and their experience. And he was probably the one I thought about the most that night.
Yeah. Unbelievable experience for you, though. And as you say, a very positive experience ultimately.
Yeah, well, you have to just you have to look at the positive from that. Like, it is what it is. My PR team were like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. And I was like, don't worry about it. Like, you can't protect me from everybody. So.
No, exactly. Tell me, Laura, what are the plans then for 2025? So major launch in the US, all going well at the start of January. Hopefully there'll be no further hurricanes. And for the rest of 2025, what's your plans?
America's obviously our main focus. We've got this opportunity now. Like, we will be grabbing it by both hands and running with it. I've applied for a later license for the brand home. I don't know what we were thinking, that we thought we could run a company and only be opened 5 hours or 6 hours, 5 days a week. Like, it's not feasible. We've had a few objections, which we were kind of expecting. So hopefully we'll get that. And we want to obviously have more people come to Inishowen and to the area and the brand home, and do events and the tours and stuff out there. And like, I absolutely love the brand home. And I know I was only home for a couple of months when I was open, but every single day when I opened that door, I was like, oh, so proud of you. Like, I love that this is buying. Like, you know, it was on like my vision board for years and years and years, and I never thought, I honestly didn't think I would get to a point where it would actually like physically exist. So yeah, that's my big focus for Ireland, and then the US is just be here and
grow it,
spread Muff all over America, and get everybody to become a Muff Liquor member, and listen, just
love it.
Yeah, brand awareness, liquid to lips, get the sales, and just keep driving. Good.
And before I let you go, because I'm very conscious of your time, and we're very grateful for it, because your story is just amazing. What advice would you give to somebody who was where you were back in COVID, or even before COVID, you know, everything that you've gone through, all the lessons that you've learned, the journey that you've been on, and you're not near done yet, right? There's a lot more to come. What advice would you give to somebody starting out?
Oh, well, when people were starting out, I've got a few things now. So I always say you've got to invest in yourself. If you cannot cook, you need to tell somebody. I would come home and sometimes say, like, I'm barely eating, or I'm eating really bad, unhealthy. And I would say to my family, I need help. And they would literally bring me meals to make sure that I'm being fed. You've got to really look after yourself mentally. Like, I only got into therapy, life coaching, meditation, plant medicine, gratitude, journaling only in the last 6 years. Like, my whole thing was, I think, God, can you imagine I was doing this in my early 20s? Like, it would have been unstoppable. And I think it's really, you've got to listen to your gut. Like, I don't listen to anybody else other than my gut. Even Tom, my business partner, will say the only person I'll never argue is with your gut, because I genuinely believe that when I ask for some guidance from a higher power, that I will get it. And just believe in yourself. Like, if you are doubting yourself, why on earth would anybody else believe in you?
Yeah, love it. That's great. That's just fantastic advice. Laura, you are a superstar.
Thank you.
You very, very much. I really appreciate your time. I know it's been amazing to talk to you. Thank you so much.
Oh, here, thank you. It's not a pleasure. It was great chatting to you.
Thank you for listening to Real Business Conversations with Kinor. For more information on this episode, see the description area of this podcast or visit our website, kinor.com. Remember to press follow on your podcast player now so you get a brand new episode every single month. This podcast is produced by dustpod.io for Kinor Finance and Business Services.